our fabulous friends, and Michael and Claire will think about our feelings everywhere with thoughts about feelings. Thoughts about feelings, yeah!
You're back! You're giving Thoughts About Feelings another chance. Thank you so much. It's always a perfect time for another mental health check. And I think we have to talk today about comedy. It's always okay to laugh. Please laugh. Please find some joy in your life, in your day, in 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever you need to keep on going. We always talk about the hard parts about mental health, anxiety, worry, stress, and grief. And all that's very real, but we have to acknowledge that sometimes it's okay to laugh at our darkest moments because that's how we get to the sunshine.
Absolutely. And I want to remind you that your laugh isn't weird. Somebody with a, weird laugh, TM, it's okay to laugh however you laugh. Sometimes your laugh make other people laugh. It is what it is. But you mentioned comedy, which is what we're going to be talking about today, so we're going to get smarter in seconds about comedy. Comedy is the art of professional entertainment consisting of jokes and satirical sketches intended to make an audience laugh. It works by playing with expectations, highlighting life's absurdities, and connecting with the shared human experiences in surprising or clever ways.
Yes, and today we are joined by Ron Funches. Ron Funches is a versatile entertainer known for his work as a stand-up comedian, actor, and writer. His notable roles span popular TV shows like Blackish, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and currently Loot on Apple TV. Beyond live-action performances, he has voiced characters in numerous animated projects, including Trolls and Bob's Burgers, one of my all-time favorite shows, my comfort show. He's also appeared in films like Get Hard and 80 for Brady, while contributing as a writer to shows like The Eric Andre Show. Outside entertainment, he is dedicated to charitable work, supporting organizations like School on Wheels and Next for Autism. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. What a lovely environment. I like being here. The space is beautiful. It's so professional here. You got like a director, an AD, a grip, a sound person. It's all one lady named Elizabeth. Yes. But she's doing good.
Oh, they're all doing good. I mean, we're here today at Reparations Club. All these beautiful books. I keep on getting distracted, so I've already asked Blair, just feel free to punch me if I get distracted. So I encourage you to do the same. If you see me looking at all the books, just give me a quick punch. I can take it.
No, I won't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not doing that. That'd be the fastest way to end my
sweet.
career.
You have a Muppet-like energy. It feels like I would be hitting a pug or something.
We're saying violence is not okay for mental health. Is that what we're going with?
Definitely not. Not violence to yourself, not violence towards others. Violence towards inanimate objects, A-okay. But you're not an inanimate object, so absolutely
I'm a real
not.
human being.
Absolutely. So we love books. We love libraries. We're here at the Reparations Club, which is an amazing Black-owned, women-owned bookstore here in Los Angeles. And we always like to center library kid questions because they provide so much curiosity. Do you want to talk to us about library kid questions?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I was. So I don't know if you know, I was a librarian as a children's librarian, so I've always gotten a whole bunch of questions from library kids. I've always lovingly called them our walking intrusive thoughts because kids do not mind telling it like it is. Whatever they observe, they're like, I have a question for you. This is probably what you're thinking of right now, so I am just going to voice your worst fears aloud. But our library kid question for you, I don't think it's too intrusive, too invasive. It's, how did you get to be so funny?
Natural gifts. My family is very funny. A lot of people in my family are very funny. My mom included. My sons are both very funny. So I think it's a natural talent within my family, and then just honing it through years, being authentic within myself, going up on stage as much as I can. I never try to disconnect too much from stand-up. Even if I'm acting or doing other things, I still try to go up to 2 or 3 times a week if I can. So I think it's just a mixture of, and also I just love it and I think about it all the time. It's something I'm passionate about. So I think about comedy all day. I was just presenting at an award show, and we were last on the docket, and so I was like, man, everybody's going to be ready to go. And so I asked the other presenter, Devin Sawa, who's in this movie Hard Eyes and was Casper the Ghost. That's how I knew him. And so then I was like, hey, first thing I asked him was like, do you like having fun? And he was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, okay, great. I go, do you mind if we change everything and just shorten it up and make it more fun? Because everybody wants wants to go home, and if
Yeah.
we just do what they wrote, we're gonna die up there. And I just think I love thinking about it, and I love doing it, and it shows. So I think that's how I became funny. But I also just wanted to say, you said something about not being afraid to laugh, even if you think your laugh's weird. And I think that's especially true for, being a live performer myself. I need more and more people to go out to shows, especially sweet weirdos who might think they're too socially anxious to go out. That's a big part of my fan base. And so I like to let them know that you're not going to be, I don't go out and pick on people, or if you're in the front row of my show, you're usually pretty safe unless you say something rude. But we need people who have unique, strong laughs. I call them laugh leaders, because they make other people laugh. They let other people know that it's okay and safe for them to laugh. So if you have a weird laugh or a strong laugh that sticks out, it's needed. You're helpful.
Well, I definitely did that at your show I think it was for Just for Laughs. And, like many Californians, I have partaken in cannabis, and I 100% smoked way too much. I think that might be a surprise to all my listeners from Smarter in Seconds, the Smarter in Seconds lady. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, you can kind of tell, and how I dress, but my general demeanor. I felt so bad because I was in the zone. I was having a hilarious time. You're talking about being a young father, and the line that got me was like, belly full of milk on the stomach. You're not supposed to do that. I laughed so hard, and I felt like I just felt so happy that you didn't make fun of my laugh or anything, because that can be a source of anxiety. But our uniqueness is what makes us so powerful. I think particularly at a time when it's really popular to yell into a microphone or yell online, you're somebody who is softer spoken, and your comedy style, especially with stand-up, is very gentle and very sweet and very kind, demure even. And I wonder if you've ever feel pressured to shift your comedy style, to adapt more to trends, or kind of how you view your uniqueness in general.
I probably, when I first started comedy, I was a little bit more prone to do the standard, like, whose birthday is it? What are you doing? Who's drinking tonight? But it was always felt very inauthentic. So it took me just learning to be more comfortable in myself, and seeing other comedians that were more soft-spoken. I still, to this day, remember seeing a set from Tig Notaro in Seattle, and she was so quiet. The room was so loud. It was full of comedians and industry people, and she was so quiet, and she just pushed her little stool around the stage and made people draw into her. And it was the first time where I was like, oh, okay, there's actually can be a power in my stillness and in my silence if I choose to embrace it more. As far as like trends and things now, I think I've recently just been more open to like working within the things I've been, I hired a social media company to help me with my TikTok and Instagram, and in turn they like help me film sketches. And I used to be a little apprehensive about it, but now I'm like, oh, like if I was younger, if I'm a teenager, or even like if it was like 50 years ago and someone told me I had the ability to just call up someone and make a minute sketch when I wanted to, like, that's a blessing, and I should be able to embrace that. And I've always been a person of like, just tell me the rules and I'll try to work within that. Like, don't hide the rules from me. And so if it's like a thing where I have to work within more of the algorithm about like topical things or like that, I try to play with it, just make sure it comes from my point of view and my voice. But overall, I just try to stay myself and talk about the things that I love, because comedy is a job that you especially as often as I like to do it, you end up saying the same things over and over, trying to hone your act, sometimes for a couple of years. And so I'd rather talk about the things I truly care about and truly love. And to do that, I can't really like chase trends or talk about what other people are talking about, because you can get that from 80% of the other comedians.
We've talked about how funny you are as a person, and I'm just curious, like when you want to laugh, are you a person who just makes yourself laugh? You just think of brand new jokes? I love people who are like, I know I'm funny, I think I'm funny. Or are you a person who also does that, but also loves to like find your own comfort shows that make you laugh? Maybe your comedian friends or just people you admire who just continue to make you laugh. whenever you need a good belly laugh?
Yeah, well, I mean, mostly my sons make me laugh. You know, I have a toddler who's almost 3, and so he's very funny, and he knows he's funny, and he likes being funny. And like if you tell him he's funny, he goes, I told you I was funny." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot." Yeah, my friends, they're mostly comedians, and so I went and did a show last night to fundraiser for a bunch of teachers that lost their homes in the Eaton fires. So, but everybody on the lineup is like my actual friend. So it was really nice to sit back and just be like, "Oh man, my friends are so funny, and it's so fun to listen to them." I watch a few shows that I love and enjoy, but I don't watch too much television. I'd say I have my comfort shows, which are generally I Love Lucy or King of the Hill. Pro wrestling, but it does make me laugh. It does make me laugh. But in general, like, life makes me laugh, and I try to use it for inspiration. And again, my sons, it's just last night or 2 nights ago, my son had his first, he had a few nightmares, but it was the first one where it led to him sleeping in my bed. And I was just like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "I just had a dream, but Baloo just wouldn't stop tickling me."
That's the best nightmare I've ever heard of.
No, but it's also hilarious. But also, I was like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that
is terrifying. If a giant blue cartoon bear won't stop tickling you. And so he was like, "Can I sleep in your bed so Baloo can't find me?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, of course. I'm going to hide you from that bear." But to me, I was like, it's the funniest thing I've heard in a while. And so, like, yeah, just my family makes me happy and makes me laugh.
I love that. When it comes to family, that's so important to, I know you've talked a lot about that. Michael's talked a lot about it. I've, with my family, you're now living with me following the Eaton fire, which has been a little bit of a journey, but they've made me laugh. My nieces, they're 17 and 18 years old, and there's also a 5-year-old one. But the 17-year-old was saying after the fire, she said 3 things that I thought were hilarious and were like a great way to cope. Let's see if I can remember them all. I feel like I just put myself on the spot. But the first one was, "Well, at least I'm going through this with braids," right? She's glad she didn't have to do her hair, and that she remembered her edge control. The second one was, "Well, now I don't have to clean my room." And that is true, because she does not have, the room is gone. And the third thing was, "Well, my college essay just wrote itself." And she's right. And so she's written it. I'm helping her with that, and it's going to help her with her applications. But I think that humor can be such a great tool to deal with a lot of tragedies. You just said you were, at a show to help fundraise. How do you use, or I guess a better question is, do you use humor as a coping mechanism? I know that sometimes I can get criticized for making everything funny as a way to try to hide the stuff that I'm going through. How do you navigate that?
Well, I think, it's just the classic saying, it's just comedy is tragedy plus time. So I'm a big believer of going through all your emotions and not leaning towards one or the other. Sometimes people use comedy as a coping mechanism instead of addressing the issues that are at hand. And I think that if you have anger about a subject or something, that can be just as transformative and as powerful for you to get out of a situation or to change a situation for you. I think it is then that once you kind of move through that situation that you can find the humor in it. Sometimes there are things that are just tragedies that you find very hilarious things in the moment. I think, like, fire or death can be certainly one of those things. Like, some of the biggest laughs I've ever had have been at funerals, So I think just being able to find the humor, find the things that seem a little bit off about life or off about things or way things are told to us, when you can kind of cut through the lies. Those are things that are really funny and can help you cope with things that are out of your control, So I think I'm a big fan of using humor as a way to show that you can still be soft after tragedy and still be soft after something harms you. But I'm also a big believer of not just using that to cope, and that you should be able to use again, you just use all your emotions and whatever is authentic to you in that time. It's okay to, I mean, one of the best things my acting, because I always used to lean towards humor and just be like, it's okay, that's fine, could be worse. And my acting coach in therapy has taught me, like, it's okay to sometimes be like, no, I didn't deserve that. That shouldn't have happened to me, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure it doesn't happen to me again. And that's fine. And then after that, you can be like, well, this happened to me,
Yes.
and make fun of it. But my acting coach always told me that every emotion has the same currency, and that sometimes we assign in our culture more value towards happiness, more value towards joy and laughter. But like, again, that sadness, that anger can be just as valuable to you. And so I just wanted to say that because I don't want to jump in and be like, yeah, you always be, just use it to cope. You gotta do the work as well.
Yeah. No, all feelings are valid. They're all very real. That's so true. I think that's the space that Blair and I are trying to create with this podcast, with this show, with these conversations. It's part I love that you're talking about trying to be, that we're all trying to be okay, and it's very natural to say, oh, I'm okay, when someone says, how are you? I'm good, I'm fine. But there's so much more to it, and I think for us to be truly okay, we have to acknowledge that it's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to get to okay, is to acknowledge that, yes, sometimes we have bad days, and saying I'm good, it's okay, is how so many of us don't make it to that next day. Mm-hmm. I think in acknowledging those very real, valid feelings, I love that we're talking about coping. There's so many different ways to cope. Today we're talking about comedy. We're talking about people with silly laughs, people who don't like their laughs. But there's different ways for everybody to cope. For a lot of people, it's video games. I believe you're a big fan of video games. A lot of people don't know that libraries have video games. Library grown-ups, parents, they don't like when I tell people that. But I'm like, we gotta
like, no, there's only books
We
there.
got to get them to the library somehow. I just started playing Animal Crossing about a week ago, so I'm just now starting to create my island. And one of my favorite things I've heard you talk about is talking about Animal Crossing, talking about being a human on an animal island. So just a fun coping question is if you have any advice for a newcomer playing Animal Crossing, and what do video games mean to you when you're able to cope?
Well, I mean, you just don't trust Tom Nook is what I would start with.
That rascal.
Yeah, he's a slumlord. And
It's that.
and then you got to get in that turnip market and go from town to town, trying to raise your bells up. That's the best advice, and get you, and then just trying to make some hybrid flowers because they're beautiful. But as far as video games for me, they're just a great stress reliever. If I'm had a hard day at work, come home, play Call of Duty with my friends is wonderful. Playing some story-based games, you learn a lot. You get a lot of different messages in places where people sometimes dismiss them as not being valuable. I think throughout time, I get they hide so many valuable messages through like hip hop and metal music and comic books and video games as well. I learned so many things about my life, and I think also as an adult that it's harder for you to make new friends. It's harder to maintain friendships as you try to work and maintain your life and have a family, if that's something that you choose to do. So for me, video games has kept me associated with my friends. It's helped me meet new friends who I then travel the globe with and have fun with. So, and it's helped me make money. And so that's been fun, just being open about what I do. And I think about any of your passions, the more open I've been about them, the more then people interact with me, and I'm able to turn those things into something profitable or just something fun. So video games are just a big part of my life, and bonding part with my son. My oldest plays a lot of games as well, and so we go to a lot of retro game conventions together. We talk a lot about games together, and we bond through that. So it's been nothing but a positive for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I have a different Animal Crossing story. I can be extreme when I get into something. Like when I'm getting into a book, that's all I want to do is just read books. And then the next week. So I had that moment during the pandemic. I really feel like Nintendo really timed the release of Animal Crossing. They probably didn't know the pandemic was coming. I don't think any of us
helped
did.
them out.
They really
helped out.
There was a point where I didn't want to talk to anybody in my home. And my husband got a Nintendo Switch also. So that way we could go on a date in the Animal Crossing different universe, even though we live in the same house. So I took it too far, so I had to uninstall the game. I still have my file, but I can't even hear the Animal Crossing music without reactivating and wanting to just play for another 500 solid hours. But I feel like that's something that I learned to do when I was growing up. I played a lot of video games. I loved Kingdom Hearts when I was a kid. But I also think who we are as kids can dictate so much of who we become as adults. Yeah. And a question that Michael and I both had is, I feel like, so I was a fun fact kid, and now I'm a fun fact adult. I make a show called Smarter in Seconds. You were a library kid. Now you're a library adult and a librarian. What kind of kid were you? And did you see this version of yourself coming into fruition?
Yeah, I was a weird, nerdy kid, and now I'm a weird, nerdy adult. Yeah, it's the same. I think one of the best blessings I have is that, like, I'm a real product of my 12-year-old dreams, all the things that I wanted to do at that point and wanted to go travel to. I've been able to somewhat accomplish, or I'm still working on. I wanted to be a comedian since I was 5 years old. I always loved comedy. And I always wanted to go to Japan. I always wanted to work with video games. Like Maya Rudolph was one of my, heroes when I was a kid, watching Bridesmaids, watching Saturday Night Live, watching all the work she's done. And so now I get to work with her and have scenes with her is beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that I always try to tell people is embrace your weirdness, embrace the passions that you have, especially right now. It seems like there's such a cultural push towards conformity through TikTok, through a lot of different things where once uniqueness and talent were the things you push to the forefront. Now it's like, how easy is it to copy something? How easy is it to be mimicked to the point where the original source gets lost? A lot of, sometimes, since now again working with my social media company, they've been reposting a lot of my old bits from 10 years ago that big mean companies like Fuck Jerry or whatever had already stolen from me and posted as memes. So when I go back and post them up, people are like, you stole this from a meme. And I'm like, what?
You're like, bro, I am the meme.
Yeah, I'm the meme maker. And it's a real thing that you see. I mean, it's a tale as old as time, right? You take black creators' works, you strip out the blackness of it. Sometimes you strip out the message of it. A lot of my, one of my favorite bits that I've done, and a bit that people tell me they like the most, is this conspiracy theory bit that I have. And it's so fun to me that some places will play the full bit, but then also I had a moment where a lot of right-wing people were taking the bit about how I'm like, I don't trust you if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, but they cut off the 30 seconds before, which goes, I don't trust you if you're racist, sexist, or don't believe in conspiracy theories. But they're like, that doesn't fit their message. So they'd rather just cut that out and just use it for their own gain. I think one of the main things you have to do as a creator right now is try to own your own space and own your infrastructure so that you can make sure that your message is as pure as you can make it,
Definitely. Now, I think we have to talk about, we're in a bookstore right now. We're at the Reparations Club, and we're talking about comedy. But I mean, you seem like you're a very busy individual. But when you get time to just read books, do you like to read funny books? Do you have a favorite genre of books? Do you have any favorite books from when you were a kid?
I like to buy 3 or 4 different books at a given time, and then read 5 to 10 pages of each.
A true reader.
Hope that I come back, and it's often never do. The last book I bought was called, I think, Big Jim and the White Boy, which is I think a reverse telling of Huckleberry Finn. So I like kind of things like that are a little silly, a little bit different, show different perspectives. I read occasional self-help books just to kind of help myself or remind myself of things. And I think probably growing up, some of my favorite books, I used to read when I was talking about being a kid, I went from Chicago to Oregon to this all white high school, so they made some assumptions about they were trying to get me on the basketball team and the football team, and then they gassed me up to the point where I was like, maybe I am good at basketball, so I'm gonna go try out. And a half hour in, I was like, nah, this ain't going. They were like, you can go back, and that's so I just end up just reading Moliere by my locker and J.D. Salinger, and so a lot of those type of books are things that I loved when I was a kid, and All Quiet on the Western Front, and all the autobiography of Malcolm X. Those are probably like, I guess not biography. Those are the things that I grew up on, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, that definitely happened to me. I went to a predominantly East Asian and white school. And, as a young black girl, they were like, wow, she could probably run track. And I'm fast, but I also have asthma. So I remember I tried out for track. I lapped the fastest dude. And then I immediately had an asthma attack, had to go to the hospital. So I would definitely let people down. Everybody
they were kind of right.
Yeah. they were.
They were
My
just like,
lungs
if we could just keep her going. Yeah.
My asthma is much better now.
Good.
They also would kind of look to me to be the one who would start dancing at prom or formal. And I couldn't dance. I've learned to dance ever since, but I just realized if I do anything, they're going to assume it's the hot new trend. Just start doing fast, jerky movements. People are like, do that. That's from the streets, and it was definitely from my own mind. But
dancing is so difficult. I mean, I think when I first got on TikTok, I tried to do the dance trends, and I know that I have no rhythm. I'm a rhythmless person, and TikTok was very quick to assure me that I was correct in my inability to dance. And sometimes I do some dancing now, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just stimming. I'm on this journey to see if I'm autistic. Please don't talk about my dancing. I'll show you an awful dance if you really want to see one. But this is what's going on with me right now.
Definitely, and autism is something that's part of my journey. I did test for autism. I'm not autistic, unfortunately, but all my friends, my husband, my dad. I'm so left out.
You're like, crap.
No, literally. So there's this test you can
so
take.
now I just don't know what's wrong with me.
I do have ADHD. I do have heaps of that. But when I took the online test for RADS, it was negligible. They're like, no, you're not autistic. But I definitely felt left out because my creative director's autistic, my dad's autistic, my sister's autistic, and so is my husband. But when I was growing up, it was definitely my sister is the neurodivergent one, I'm the neurotypical one, and I feel that prevented me from getting the help I needed with dyslexia, with my ADHD, etc. But I often find that that dichotomy tends to happen, and you've been so open talking about your son and raising him and him being autistic. Have you learned about your own how your own brain works through that journey?
I mean, it's actually mostly I was so focused on protecting him and that, so that I had never really thought about that. And recently is something that I've been thinking about just digging more into because of the internet being we think you're also and then also a lot of my friends have been recently diagnosed, and it's the people who I associate the closest with and it kept happening recently to the point where I was like, oh wait, why are you the person I get along the most with?
So you see why I had to take the test. I was if all my friends and family members are autistic.
And then it would explain a few things about obsessive behaviors with me and texture things with me. So I'm open. If I need time, but it's something I think I'm going to look into more about myself because I think it does help you to I always associate it to, since I'm a gamer and stuff, to role playing games where you just kind of want to know what's on your character sheet. It's not something that means good or bad, but if you have a +2 in this or this and that, then you can kind of know how to navigate through the world a little bit easier. And I think I have also some really strong feelings about loyalty and friendship that I think I'm maybe these are some things in my own brain with in the spectrum that I need to associate that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily work like that.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I mean, there are definitely so many thoughts about feelings about everything that we're talking about. And I think for me, again, I'm a person who has a lot of mental health diagnoses, anxiety, depression, panic disorder, nightmare disorder. So I relate to your son having a nightmare. I've never had that one. That one is definitely
I'm sorry to
on
add that
the
in
scale,
there.
on the scale of nightmares. Now I'm like, oh no, please don't tickle me next. But there's so many there's so many hardships. I mean, for me on this journey to see if I'm diagnosed as an autistic person, it's one of those things where I think people autistic persons will comment on my videos. They're like, oh yeah, like when I start talking about it, they say, oh yeah, you are autistic. Well, we knew this. How did you not know? And I'm like, hey, I'm not officially diagnosed as an autistic person yet. Give me time. So I like that you said that.
Yeah.
Give me time. I'm the same way. I'm like, please let me figure it out for myself. I'm still on the timeline. You're in the future. I'm still way back here on this journey. So I think my question for you is to talk about your child who has autism, who is autistic. I think that's also a question people often has. It's like how do autistic persons prefer to be called? Which I think in my experience is every autistic person is different. They are going to tell you something different. But as we're talking about mental health, how has your mental health changed from when your son was diagnosed to now? I'm sure there's been some good days and some bad days throughout that journey.
Yeah, well, he's in the beginning. There's a grieving process of learning to grieve my own expectations that I put upon my child. I think a lot of things when it comes to stress are usually about your own expectations and your own beliefs, and a lot of those are positives. I just wanted to build a better life for my son than I have, and I think I still accomplished that goal. But to know that I couldn't just be like, well, you are going to be good at basketball, and I just had to accept his character sheet and accept him for who he is, has then again let me I don't even know if I'd be a comedian if it wasn't for him, because when he found out that he was on the spectrum, it made me be like, oh, he's different. I have to defend his differences, and if I'm going to defend his differences, I have to accept my differences and be my authentic self. And if I need to do what I need to do, and that's helped me through many ways, navigating and getting in and out of different relationships that weren't good for me, or job opportunities that weren't good for me. I go by this thing of like, is this my authentic self? So, and like you said, like my son was diagnosed about 18 years ago. So it's really interesting for me to watch the shift in the way that people talk about autism. And I love how many more people know about it, how many people want to claim it, but it's also interesting that when my son was young, it was more like you wouldn't call someone autistic. You would be like, they have autism. And then now it's like the exact reverse, as the culture of it is like, no, I'm autistic. And I'm like, oh, this is so funny to see. And so like you say, I just try to, it's all individual. It's all cool. I just like it when people do actually go get diagnoses and, understand that some people, like my son, especially when he was younger, he needed aids, he needed actual funding and help, and couldn't work a regular job. So I just like to make sure if someone, that's why I'm not quick to claim it myself, because I'm like, I firmly believe in getting a true diagnosis and not self-diagnosing yourself and something like that. It's okay if you have inklings about it, but like, it's a real thing that some people need real like money and real help with. So I'm a big believer in, like, if you believe it, go get a diagnosis for sure.
So Thoughts About Feelings is self-funded by myself and Michael Threets and our amazing team at Ninth Planet Audio. Shout out to Elizabeth for helping make sure everything runs smoothly. But it's actually brought to us not by sponsors, but by acts of self-care. And so today's act of self-care is one that I hope you've been doing the entire time you've been listening or viewing with us and with Ron, and that's laughing, having a big, big laugh. I had hoped that I would come up with some brilliant comedic timing to make everybody laugh, but alas, I am a facts lady and not a laughing lady. But today's episode of Thoughts About Feelings is brought to us by having a big laugh. It's a great way to lower your stress levels. It's a great way to get in touch with your body. And again, to embrace your laughs, even if you are a laugh leader, like Ron said earlier. Fabulous. I appreciate you so much in coming to share with us. I thank you so much for your friendliness. When I first met you, I think it was the Essence Black Women in Hollywood event, and I was just like, hi, you're amazing. And you were like, thank you. And then I asked if we could stay in touch. Now we're in touch, and now we have new friends, and I thank you so much for being on Thoughts About Feelings. I think that self-advocacy is so important, even as we advocate for other people. That's something that you spoke to today. Showing up for your son. I mean, you had to show up for yourself, and that's what we want to encourage folks to do on Thoughts About Feeling. So we really thank you for joining us today, and we hope that we have many more opportunities to laugh with you.
Yeah, I would love to. I enjoy you very much. No, just you have a great personality and we're very kind. And I love when people compliment me. So I was never going to do that. And also, I always take into consideration the environment I'm in. I always like to be like, well, if you're in the same space and I'm in, at that point, you must have done something. You must have worked hard to get where you are. And so when I went back home, and I think we took a picture together, right, and posted it, and then my assistant was Haley. It was just like, you know her.
Thank you, Haley.
So no, you actually made me look pretty cool. So appreciate it. I'm happy to be your friend, and I'm happy to get to know you as well, Michael.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for being here. Well, I learned so much. We had some good laughs talking about comedy and mental health. And please say hello to your children on our behalf. Thank you for being willing to talk about them. And I also hope that your one child the bear does not return to tickle him tonight. Wishing him dreams instead of nightmares.
Thank you.
And such a pleasure. Thank you for talking and laughing with us today.
Anytime.
Coming up next, we have a discussion with Jazzy McGilbert, owner of Reparations Club. She'll tell us all about her experience building Reparations Club as an independently owned business and how she jumped into action to support the community during recovery efforts for the Los Angeles wildfires.
We're so excited to have Jazzy McGilbert, the owner and founder of Reparations Club here in Los Angeles, to talk about more thoughts about feelings.
Got a lot of thoughts about feelings. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I met you a few years ago, I believe, where I came in. I was documenting some Black-owned businesses in the Los Angeles area, and it's just been so beautiful to see how much it has grown. But I know that a huge part of the story of Reparations Club has to do with your family. Will you share with us kind of what inspired the creation of your bookstore?
Yes. Thank you for that video, by the way. Things like that are hugely impactful to us. So thank you. But I think the bookstore, we're talking about feelings, but a lot of Rep Club was kind of started in grief, as, I think a lot of things are for Black people. But my mom had passed away, and 9 months later I had a bookstore. And so I call this my grief baby. I feel like I blacked out and opened a bookstore. But I also think I was just in my rawest state and wasn't questioning things as much as I might otherwise, and went back to some of my first loves, which were reading and books. And I was one of those kids. Books were my friends. That was me. And so I just went to a childlike state, I think. Yeah.
That can be a good place to go.
It can be.
It can be.
I mean, books are such great first friends. I mean, I have so many friends who are books when I didn't have any friends. Many of them are tattooed on my body. But also, I always talk about Beverly Cleary's characters were some of my most favorite. I love Junie B. Jones. I jokingly say the B stands for bad and bougie. That Grace is one of the first characters I saw, like a person of color, in Junie B. Jones. So all those characters are so special, and I appreciate your vulnerability, being willing to talk about grief.
Yeah.
Grief is it's such a complicated subject, complicated thing to approach. So many people they try to give people grace through grief, because grief has no timeline.
Right.
But I think people often forget that where they say, "Oh, it's been a month, it's been 2 months."
Move on.
We said take your time, but we didn't know you're going to take
Not that much.
this much time.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many people who take years to overcome grief, and so many people never do. So many people experience grief in their 30s, and they keep a hold of it, for lack of a better phrase, up until their 80s. So I appreciate you being willing to talk about it. I think we don't talk about grief enough. I mean, we're talking about thoughts about feelings, but I love that you're really able to put yourself into this bookstore. And I'm just curious if you have a favorite memory of the bookstore where someone came in and was like, "Oh, I can't believe you had this book. This was a book I've been looking for."
Wow. So many. So many. So my brain's going through.
Well, as you think
The
about it,
flashbacks,
I want to shout out Marissa Renee Lee's book, Grief is Love, which is a phenomenal book about processing grief. And that helped me a lot when my grandmother passed away. And she was actually from Altadena, which I know we're going to talk about the fires. But we want to hear your memories as well.
Memories. I mean, there's one that always sticks in my mind. Not to just fixate on the grief, but I also lost my dad in the process of having this bookstore 2 years ago. And there's a story that he would be here. He's a music guy. And I was listening to Hanif Abdurraqib's podcast, Object of Sound, at the time. And he thought that was my friend. And he brought a vinyl and he was like, "Give this to your friend Hanif." And I was just like, I don't actually know him like that. But full circle moment was getting to host Hanif's book launch. And so that was a moment that meant a lot to me in the space. And then just all of the customers who have become friends, customers who have become staff, and just all the different things that we read and talk about. Yeah, those are so many of my favorite experiences.
And you've been such just a pivotal, what did she say? Corporate Aaron, a pivotal partner in the community. Between you and Octavia's Bookshelf, I feel that we are so held within our community, following the Eaton fires and the Los Angeles fires in general.
Yeah.
You sprung into action immediately, supporting community like you always do. I felt so frozen in that moment because, it had directly impacted my family members, as it did for many folks in the LA area.
Yeah.
But I'm usually the person who takes action. And in that moment, usually I'm the person who helps, but in that moment, I needed the help.
Yeah.
And so I want to just thank you so much for
Oh my
pouring
God.
your heart into our community, our shared community. But I also want to know, how did you find the willpower, the gumption, the strength to do that?
I mean, we were all stressed out, but I left the morning the fires really broke out, and I was in Japan. And so I was just disoriented and had a little bit of distance, and I was just so concerned for everybody. I grew up here. I've been here my whole life. And so I had people affected, by all of the fires. And it felt like the least I could do. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I felt a lot of guilt just not being here at that time. And so I spent a lot of my time on a different time zone early in the morning in Japan doing what I could from afar, which was tapping into our community. And I know that people look to us just for some direction sometimes. And so people wanted to pour into LA. And so we used that trust that we have and have earned to collect some funds to get people what they needed in that immediate moment, which was air purifiers, masks, so many things, homes for their dogs. And yeah, Nikki at Octavia's is a really good friend of mine. And so just listening to her and hearing what she needed and getting her whatever she needed was really important to me too. So
I love it so much because I think sometimes you might think, oh, there's two, well, I'm sure there's more than two, but like Black-owned bookstores in Los Angeles run by women. They must hate each other and be in constant competition. I also, that's not what I thought between you and Nikki. I know that you two are friends and friends of mine as well, and Michael's. But I also had the misunderstanding, a real one, that I was like, oh, surely libraries and bookstores
can't get along.
Beef.
Yeah,
And
they're
then
giving away our inventory for free.
Fisticuffs.
I even explained beef, a term from Black English that means to be, in disagreement, to have kind of a grudge against each other. Got to keep smarter in seconds. But I want to know the role that libraries have played in your life.
Ooh, libraries. I remember I have this theory that the first books you check out of the library really say a lot about you and like at your core as a human. And libraries are hugely important to me. I grew up in South Central. There were not a lot of things that we could afford to do, and the library was always one of them. So my mom took me there often. I remember being scared about not returning books and that they were going to hit me with a fine when I turned 18. That never happened. But I still have a couple of those books. But the first books I checked out of the library were about making books. And I didn't know. I learned so much about myself and all of the things that you could be just from wandering the halls of a library.
Yeah. You thought we were going to be Miss Trunchbull instead of Miss Honey.
I did. Yeah, definitely Miss Honey vibes for sure. So yeah.
How many library cards do you have?
Ooh.
Or do you have more than one?
I think I just have my LA Public Library card.
That's quite okay.
Yeah, and it served me well. So I don't have other
all
ones.
you need is one. Just one library card will change your life.
Yeah.
Definitely an action item for our listeners and viewers to make sure you get yourself a library card.
For sure.
Make sure that you find the local Black-owned, Indigenous-owned, woman-owned bookstore in your area. Make sure you visit Reparations Club.
Yes.
But make sure you get a library card because, once again, it's not either or. You don't have to choose between bookstores and libraries. You can have it all. You deserve it all, just like Kendrick Lamar tells us.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
agreed.
thank you, Jazzy McGilbert, for joining us today. You talk about guilt. You talk about grief. Two words that begin with a G. But you've given back so much to your community. How can people give back to Reparations Club?
I mean, there's so many ways, but obviously shopping is one. Coming to events, that's another. Just leaving a review. And sometimes it's been someone just saying something nice in a comment online that like gives me the energy that I need to kind of keep going. And so I have another G word, which is gratitude. Yeah, that's a big one for me. So.
That brought to us by the letter G. Yes, go and make sure you leave some 5-star reviews about Reparations Book Club. If you're an author, make sure that you support Reparations Book Club. Come and sign books. That's what I'm going to be doing here to help make sure that they continue to support our community and that we can support them.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank
you.
you.
I love it.
We've got some thoughts about feelings. Think of the places we can go and the people we'll meet, the things that we'll see. What do you think? Are you feeling me? Thoughts about feelings. All the ideas we can share with our fabulous friends and Michael and Blair. We'll think about our feelings everywhere with thoughts about feelings. Thoughts about feelings.